现在基加利机场，这里的时间是5月25号。
I'm at Kigali International Airport right now. It's May 25th, 2 days earlier than we planned to return home. The reason is that Ebola has broken out in nearby Congo, and the death toll has reportedly passed 1,000. Wow, that's pretty dangerous, so we decided to come back early. Once I get home, I'll probably need to self-isolate for a while. Ebola, with a mortality rate of up to 50%, has resurfaced, and concerns are rising in China. The outbreak is occurring in one of the world's most critical mining regions for the global new energy, battery, and smartphone supply chains, where many Chinese-funded projects and Chinese nationals are present. This makes it more than an African infectious disease. It directly touches Chinese economic interests. How did this outbreak come to light? The strain rapidly spreading in the jungles and mining areas of Eastern Democratic Republic of the Congo is not the familiar Zaire strain which has a vaccine. Instead, it is the Bundibugyo strain, which disappeared for over a decade and has no internationally available vaccine. It has a fatality rate estimated between 25 and 50%. Alarmingly, the virus has silently been circulating locally for 2 months. As early as March and April, remote villages and illegal mining sites reported consecutive deaths, sudden vomiting of blood, or unexplained fatalities. On May 19th, the World Health Organization declared that Ebola outbreaks in the Democratic Republic of the Congo and Uganda constitute a public health emergency of international concern. This Bundibugyo outbreak has raised significant alarm within the DRC. Infected individuals with early symptoms, fever, headache, extreme fatigue, are still able to move freely and even cross borders, causing wider transmission. An American surgeon working in the DRC who contracted the virus was urgently airlifted to Germany on May 20th for isolation treatment. According to the surgeon, the Christian missionary organization the surgeon belongs to, his condition had visibly deteriorated by the time he left Congo, making walking almost impossible, highlighting the severity of the outbreak. In addition, at least 3 Red Cross volunteers in the DRC have died after contracting Ebola while handling corpses. BBC reported on May 24th that these volunteers were infected on March 27th while working on a project in eastern Ituri unrelated to the virus, until the outbreak was eventually detected. A total of 25 patients have fled during the outbreak. According to Lokodu, a local health official, one critically ill suspected patient with severe bleeding died while attempting to escape from their hospital bed. The remaining patients remain unaccounted for, potentially carrying the deadly virus as they move through local communities. As of May 25th, the DRC authorities reported over 900 suspected cases, with approximately 220 deaths among them. The greatest risk stems from the fact that the Democratic Republic of the Congo is a strategic hub for global new energy and mining industries. Tens of thousands of Chinese miners and gold prospectors are currently working in this virus epicenter. On May 24th, China's CDC advised that anyone entering or returning from high-risk countries and regions, including the DRC and Uganda, should conduct 21 days of self-health monitoring starting from their entry date. This means that even before Chinese customs can fully enforce protective measures, some individuals may have returned home via unofficial routes that bypass monitoring. Could these travelers be carrying the virus? To fully grasp the urgency of this crisis, one must think about this question. In 2026, with highly advanced technology, why have the World Health Organization and leading scientists still been unable to identify patient zero? The answer is, the virus has been silently circulating locally for 2 full months, erasing all traces of its origin. During March and April, this long incubation asymptomatic virus quietly traveled with the most mobile and least monitored population in the region, most likely Chinese workers in DRC mining areas. Those unfamiliar with China-Africa trade might find it puzzling. If Ebola breaks out in the DRC and patient zero is unknown, shouldn't Africans be the main victims? Why say that tens of thousands of Chinese workers are most at risk? The answer lies in a rarely reported reality behind global energy transition and geopolitics: China's binding interests in DRC's mineral resources. As the world ramps up electric vehicle, smartphone, and high-tech chip production, a critical strategic raw material, cobalt, forms a core part of these supply chains. Through large-scale mine investments, equity acquisitions, and long-term infrastructure partnerships, Chinese enterprises hold significant influence over cobalt access and mining capacity in the DRC. More importantly, China dominates global midstream cobalt refining and chemical processing, controlling about 75% of refined cobalt production worldwide. Among the top 10 cobalt mines in the DRC, more than half are controlled by Chinese firms. For example, CMOC Group acquired Tenke Fungurume and Kisanfu, two world-class copper-cobalt mines formerly owned by Freeport-McMoRan, giving the company nearly 40% of global cobalt output. According to incomplete Chinese official statistics and estimates from local chambers of commerce, approximately 30,000 to 50,000 Chinese nationals live and work in the DRC year-round. About 70% of these Chinese workers are concentrated in relatively stable cities such as Kolwezi and Lubumbashi. They mainly come from Henan, Hubei, Zhejiang, and Jiangsu provinces and work as technical staff for major publicly listed companies and state-owned enterprises, including CMOC Group, Zijin Mining, and Huayou Cobalt. These locations have structured management, regular chartered flights, and permanent medical support, and they are far from northern epidemic zones, making them comparatively safe. Higher-risk populations are scattered in the northeastern Ituri and the North Kivu provinces, areas affected by conflict and mainly consist of individual miners and operators of small to medium-sized mining sites. Many come from Shanglin County in Guangxi, Zhuzhou in Henan, and Heilongjiang, with the Shanglin Group being particularly prominent. These workers, relying on specialized alluvial gold mining techniques, often cluster in Africa's volatile regions. Labor-intensive individual mines experience high personnel mobility. Chinese miners work closely with local employees, sharing meals and labor. Local workers operate in the mines during the day and return at night to potentially infected villagers. In the current situation, with no vaccine available globally and community transmission chains entirely hidden, if even a single African worker unknowingly carries the virus into a mining site, the infection risk for Chinese miners in close contact, sharing tents to verify ore data or panning gold in the same water holes, rises exponentially. This is not alarmist rhetoric. Médecins Sans Frontières have already warned that many confirmed cases are appearing near gold processing facilities and illegal mines. But the greatest danger is not the infection itself. These Chinese miners, working far from home, would not recognize the early symptoms of Ebola as life-threatening. During this critical golden period, they continue to move through commercial hubs, dine with fellow Chinese, and socialize, unaware they are carrying a deadly virus. By the time they realize that fever reducers are ineffective, that extreme fatigue and internal bleeding set in, and that local medical care is non-existent amid ongoing armed conflict, their first instinct is to escape. In such conditions, with poor local healthcare and unstable security, many try to return to China as soon as possible. This Ebola outbreak has a defensive window of 40 to 50 days. During this period, large numbers of miners and gold prospectors, either rushing home or continuing regular commercial travel, have likely already re-entered China. Many may wonder, given China's immigration and travel big data systems and the CDC's ability to trace 21 days of flights and passport records, why were these cases not detected? The answer lies in the irregular miners working in conflict zones. They do not use conventional travel routes, but instead rely on an existing gray return channel. How do these miners return? According to mainland media reports, they avoid international airports in the capital. Instead, they pay local smugglers or gangs in US dollars, traveling overland or even in cargo trucks to neighboring countries such as Togo or Côte d'Ivoire. Once in a third country, they use informal Chinese intermediaries to purchase tickets in cash, in segments with multiple connecting flights. By that time, this gray channel already posed a significant risk to China's epidemic prevention system. Authoritative medical journals, including the Chinese Journal of Parasitology and Parasitic Diseases, have confirmed that many individual workers in remote African regions deliberately take circuitous routes. such as African country, Dubai, Southeast Asia, Kuala Lumpur, or Bangkok, regional Chinese entry point to avoid border inspections and quarantine. These miners often purchase tickets in segments, the first leg from Uganda to Dubai on Airline A. After a 2-day stay in Dubai, a second leg to Kuala Lumpur on Airline B, and finally using a domestic app to book a flight from Kuala Lumpur to Nanning, China. By the time these miners reach Chinese customs, systems capture only the final leg of the journey, showing them simply returning from Malaysia. The system's data chain is effectively severed. It has no record that just 2 nights earlier the individual may have been in the DRC, panning ore alongside a local who later died from sudden internal bleeding. At this point, the miner is in the incubation period symptom-free, with normal infrared temperature readings and no clinical signs detectable during epidemiological checks. With the Bundibugyo Ebola strain's incubation period extending up to 21 days, asymptomatic individuals can pass through customs, leave the airport, board high-speed trains or overcrowded long-distance buses, carrying the deadly virus unnoticed. During this period, before any public announcements, authorities cannot determine how many of these infected people have already returned home. Upon reaching remote villages in Guangxi's Shanglin or mountainous regions in Hunan, the most unpredictable risks emerge. In these local areas, local doctors often misdiagnose high fevers as malaria relapses or common seasonal flu. The most alarming reality is the entrenched culture of concealment within the Chinese system. History, from SARS to the Wuhan virus, has repeatedly shown that the first response of Chinese officials is maintain stability, not transparency. For them, avoiding political incidents during their term outweighs controlling disease spread. This logic reflects what can be called bureaucratic economics. An official's career advancement depends on maintaining the appearance of stability, not on effective crisis management. The result is suppressed information, delayed facts, and silent spread of the virus. Even more concerning, this inertia is not merely technical, it is institutional. It deprives the public health systems of its most valuable asset, time. Every delay allows another round of community transmission. Every concealment erodes proactive control. Thus, the real danger is not only the virus itself, but the rigidity and fear embedded in the system. It traps society in a recurring cycle when facing a black swan. First denial, then delay, and finally forced acknowledgement. History repeats, and the cost grows ever heavier. Beyond the immediate public health threat, the Ebola outbreak also raises serious supply chain risks for Chinese enterprises. The entire chain from mining operations to port shipment could face bottlenecks. Historically, West African Ebola outbreaks caused sharp economic slowdowns. The situation in the DRC is likely more complex. Should this outbreak spread widely, it could ripple through global supply chains and pricing systems. Cobalt and copper are not ordinary commodities. They are core raw materials for the new energy and electronics sector. Chinese companies control a significant portion of local production. Any reduction in mine output could hinder electric vehicle production, drive up electronic product costs, and ultimately affect consumers. China serves as the main hub for cobalt refining. Most DRC ore and intermediate products are shipped to China for further processing. Disruptions in export flows could directly reduce refinery operating rates, affecting the production of battery cathode materials. While corporate inventories provide short-term buffering, sustained interruptions would force upstream and downstream adjustments in production plants, placing additional pressure on small and medium-sized enterprises. Indirect costs are also considerable. International trade and logistics firms may face higher shipping fees and insurance premiums as a new norm. Moreover, Eastern DRC has long-standing armed conflict and instability. Local mistrust of foreign companies coupled with a weak healthcare system may complicate epidemic control. In summary, the potential spread of Ebola in DRC mining regions threatens not only the health of Chinese workers, but also the operations of local projects, extending into China's new energy and electronics sector. China's advantage in cobalt refining increases risk. Any disruption in ore exports hits Chinese refineries and battery supply chains most severely, with losses difficult to estimate.